And we are live. I am here with three gentlemen who are all very well versed in how to publicize their books. And if you notice, Ro is not here. That's because after
Not well versed in publicizing his book. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you said only gentlemen, so Ro couldn't be here. I mean,
right. Well, after he told everyone how I was pole dancing last Friday and couldn't make the show, I'm just going to tell you all that he is now taking lessons in Mongolian throat singing because that's always been near and dear to his heart. So you'll have to ask him for try it when he comes back.
Oh, jeez.
Zoom through here, we got all our regulars.
Tim McKay, EL.
And Tim Wolf. We got the Timocracy here. Greg Terrell's here. We got Secret Scribes. I don't know if we've seen any break-ins yet, but
well, you know,
we'll see.
You know how those break-ins are.
Before we came live, I want to start everyone off with a horror story, and then Dave jumped in and said he can share his too. So yay! But Scott, tell us what happened with your launch. It went smooth as can be without a single hiccup, correct?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, since we're talking about publicizing, right? So when I was about 4 days, it was actually 8 days away from publishing my first book. I got a great email that said that my Amazon account had been suspended. And usually they send you a nice email explaining like what happened, right? And what the email that I got explaining it said, due to an error in our system, there's no reason for this. Basically, due to an error in our system, your account's suspended. Nice. And we don't know why. And so like, along with losing the account, you lose all of your pre-orders, all of that hard work. So like in publicizing the book, I started 7 months before publication. Okay. Just building up, trying to meet people online, just trying to make the title of my book, the premise of my book, the cover of my book seen. So when it did come out, at least a few people would be like, hey, I've seen that. I'll buy that. And so all of that steam, that momentum was just kind of halted. And it was kind of not only halted, it was completely taken rug out from underneath of me. Like I said, I want to pivot this into our publicizing topic of tonight. So in that horrible moment, there was, what do you do? What do you do? Luckily, I had a few other author friends, and I immediately reached out to them for support. Like, guys, this just happened to me. This is the worst nightmare ever. What do I do? And Greg's actually reading it. Thanks, Greg. So anyways, I go, what do I do? This is an author's worst nightmare, guys. Like, everyone, please give me answers. Help me. And nobody has answers, of course, but the kind of best thing you could do that I thought I could do was use it as another way to publicize my book and myself. So I just kind of did call to actions on social media, and I was like, guys, everybody, social media Amazon has canceled my account. Please send well wishes. And I just wanted to use it to connect with readers, connect with other authors. I knew obviously other authors would be immediately like, oh my gosh, that's awful. Like I can empathize with you, at least if it hasn't happened to me. I can imagine it's everyone's worst nightmare. So anyways, I used that. It actually really helped to push, to reach a wider audience than I would have if my Amazon account wasn't canceled. Evening, Josh. And so, it's kind of just like rolling with the punches and the whole thing. Try to use every opportunity you can as a reason to talk about yourself and your book. And especially in the community, the community loves talking about books. We love talking about drama. Like what is a book if not drama, So it's just the perfect opportunity to, like I said, just reach out, get the word out. And then funny enough is I ended up getting a bunch of the pre-orders back just off of kind of people rallying, being like, Amazon sucks, because my Amazon account actually did come back through 2 days before. So May 29th was my publication day. May 27th, I woke up in the morning and they were like, okay, you can have your account back. And we still don't know what you did wrong. So you can't change anything or try to keep this from happening again. Just here you go. So then now I'm still, everything I do, anytime I touch anything on Amazon, I'm absolutely terrified that I'm going to mess something up, you know?
Just a question. Have you done any follow-up appreciation posts, like saying thank you to everybody?
I did. And like, again, some of those are just the best things. And that's actually a great thing, Sebastian, because I always try to do thank you posts. They're just, I find them a good way to, I get them a lot of interaction off of them, just because I think it's when you're thanking somebody, they feel welcome to interact with you. Like, oh, you're welcome. I'm part of this, right? Or sometimes when you're just doing random stuff that not everybody necessarily understands, but those like human connections, those just things that could happen to anybody, I think those are some of the best ways, the best uses of publicizing yourself, if not your book, right?
Oh yeah.
So I want to go back. You started telling people about your book how long before it came out?
Yeah, so like I think 7 months at least. If it's your first one, especially, that was for me, just because that's how long it took for me to build a website, build a mailing list, get all that stuff going. And I just kind of, when I started social media was when I was like, okay, I'm getting ready to publish this book. And this is kind of me taking it seriously now. I mean, there's so many different ways to go about it, but that's just how I did it. I was like, I'm going to need time to get stuff going. And I think like there really is truly, there's a great saying in marketing, the 7 touches of marketing, which I truly believe in. I truly do. That the idea behind that is that it takes a consumer 7 times seeing your product before they'll consider buying it. So that means you got to start putting that in front of their face a lot. Now I've seen that. Obviously, it's not necessarily 7 times. Like there's some people that will impulse buy right away, right? But there's other people that it might take 15 times. So I do think that whole 7 touches thing does kind of even out over time. And that's my reasoning behind starting 7 months before, just to give yourself time to reach those people and to do it in a way that's not spammy. I mean, you know, you could post 7 times in a week, but how effective is that going to be, right?
I would agree. Like with that, if you are that person every day, you're just like, hello, would you like to buy my book? Hello,
Yeah.
would you be interested in my book? Hello, I would like to sell a book today. People start to look at you and be like, I would like you to shut up. Leave me
Exactly.
alone.
Dave,
You
Sebastian, I know you guys are in
do
those
anymore.
I know you guys are in those Facebook groups, or used to be in those Facebook groups with with people doing exactly that. Hello, do you guys like my book? Would you like to buy my book? Just for 2 weeks straight. That's their marketing. That's not the best way to publicize your book, is what we're trying.
Automatically makes me not want to buy the book. I think I started like 7 months out as well, Mike. But I have to admit that whereas it sounds like Scott had a plan, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. It's like I had published books in the past, like on Amazon and everything like that. And it's like, okay, I know how to use Amazon. KDP is pretty easy to work with, whatever. But this whole like publishing a book that you actually want like people that aren't your friends and family to read, a little bit of a harder thing. And so like I was like, all right, I got all the social media. I'm starting to make connections. I've set this date. This book's coming out in June.
That's
and
right.
then it's like April, and I'm like, this book's not coming out in June. Back to August. This book's still not coming out. Finally, I decided, all right, it's gonna be October 19th. I've got the date, everything's ready. And then Amazon is like, I'm sorry. I had pre-order set up and I hadn't advertised it, but like 2 people had gone and pre-ordered my book. And so the first time I moved it back, they were like, you can only move it back 1 more time. And I was like, oh shit, I don't know what to do here, because then I had to move it back again and they'd only let me move it back a month. So I've got the date back to September 15th or something. And the book wasn't going to be ready. Well, the book was, but I wanted more time for ARC readers. So I contacted Amazon and was like, I'm trying to move it back to this date. And they said, I'm sorry, you can't do that. However, we'll cancel all of your pre-orders and then you can restart the book. So like in August, maybe the beginning of August, lost my 17 pre-orders and did a full new pre-order thing. I ended up getting more back, so that worked for me. But I did have to give a book away to Nick Fogbound Alexander because he wanted. I did a little giveaway of like, hey, if you actually ordered the book the first time and order the book the second time, I'll put you in a little giveaway. And like Greg Terrell here was like, I refuse to buy your book again. Go to hell. So he did not buy the book again, and I'm still kind of pissed at him about it. But no, so like it works out. I feel like these negatives that happen to you as an author, work out in the end because
I mean, if you
the community rallies around you, but
that's what it is. You have to try to get people to rally around you, though. Like you put the work in to be like, hey, everybody, help me. I'm sad. I screwed up. A lot of people don't want to admit they messed up, right, Dave? Like, so I think there's a lot of just in your personality of being humble enough to say, hey, guys, like this, I've messed up somehow.
I've messed up every single aspect of this thing.
Now my launch is messed up and I don't know what to do. I'm panicking. And I think, I think that just comes down to just being genuine. When you want to publicize yourself and your book, just be genuine. And I've had this talk before. It's not just about your book. I think I try to build a brand around my whole author brand. It's not just one book. It's not one series, it's the whole thing. And how you carry yourself as an author is your brand. Like your personality, we don't really have a ton to go off of. I mean, as an author, I'm not like, I don't have my own YouTube channel or anything. So, I mean, there's not, when I get we're not all Mike Molman here. So, when I do get an opportunity to express myself, I try to make sure that it's the brand is represented in a way that is just me being genuine. And even if that means, hey, I've messed up, then that's the way the brand has to go. And then, I mean, if you're consistent on that and people just kind of see, this is just a real person, like, because that's all we are as authors. We're just normal people who want to tell a story. And like you said, that's just people want to rally around someone that they can see themselves in. And if you just, like I said, being genuine, I think is the absolute best thing that you can possibly do.
Okay. So
another thing that really works well is whenever you like your marketing and publicity fits your book and like the type of book you are writing. Like, for example, my book is witty, snarky, banter, jokey, and that's kind of what my personality is like as well. So like my marketing is not going to be like incredibly serious, over the top, like this is the most epic book to ever exist, because that doesn't quite fit the whole vibe. Like, it is a funny book, so I need to be funny with marketing. Or if the marketing's all serious, they're going to be like, I don't really believe you that there's funny, because you're not funny.
If you're not funny, yeah. How many times, like, that's like I remember going to bars and there's this indie stand-up comedian night, and I was talking to the stand-up comedians and I was like, you don't seem funny. I don't see this going well for you, because I'm sitting here just having a normal conversation and like you're not even making me like snicker at all, like, so if it's not in your personality, then like you said, Dave, how are you gonna make me laugh if you can't even do it? Like, if you have time to write a book and you have time to like edit that and make it funny, I mean, it's a whole skill in its own.
So we have Sebastian on here, which is kind of odd because Sebastian published.
One more time, you cut out.
How many books have you published?
0.
But Sebastian is well on his way to 10,000 TikTokers, if that's what you call such people. At least until January 19th. So then he won't be important anymore. So that's why we had to get him on this month. So I will tell you that 2 other people have said that, 7 months before they started advertising their book. I've told the story before, but my first book I published on the 4th of July because I was like, I'm not doing any more passes. It's good enough. I'm publishing. And then I called my brother and I doubled the number of people in the world who knew my book was published. That's how I marketed my first book. So which way sounds better to you?
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of like in the middle because when I first talked to you, Mike, it was at Crash City Con. And that was in what, 2023
Yep.
at the end of it. So I've actually listened to everybody's horror stories. Like I've went to tons of different events, RavenCon, Convivial, Crash City, um, tons of different conventions, Renaissance fairs, you name it. I've been a part of them. I've helped Sinful signings. Um, and I've just listened to everybody's horror stories. And so like I am mapping out how not to make the same mistakes.
Oh, you'll make
So-
all new ones, Sebastian.
yeah. So
I
like
would-
my plan is a little bit different. Like I'm not doing the traditional like write a book, get excited about it, put it out there. It's write 5 or 6 books, have them in the same category, and I'm doing it all myself. So, getting an editor, having the alphas, the betas, the ARC readers, having the editor go through everything, push out little teasers. I've already done that this year. Learn how to use social media to be able to market myself. And then next year, I'm learning how to do the whole uploading and publicizing and book art and all that sort of stuff. So the actual publishing aspect of what do you call it? We talked about it before we came on the show. I'm terrible at thinking of stuff on the spot. Like formatting.
Formatting, yeah. Well, for formatting, Sebastian, you should definitely use. You were saying you should get a program, or at least get somebody to do it for you, because there's so many intricacies to that. It's an actual before like programs like Atticus or Vellum. This was an actual like skill that people went to school for to do. So it's really not just like something. It's kind of similar in a way to editing, that it does take some. It's not something to overlook, because if your book doesn't look like a book when someone's reading it, it's massive red flag, huge red flag. The same as finding like multiple spelling. You're always going to find a spelling mistake, no matter how many editors you get. But if you find multiple spelling mistakes in the first couple of pages, it's not looking too great for you, right? There's certain things that I would definitely say, like not take as seriously, that you don't necessarily need to spend money on in every aspect. But there's a couple that are very important, which would be editing, formatting, cover. I mean, Dave, tell me if I'm missing anything here.
Editing, formatting, cover. I mean, obviously you want the book to be good, but
Of course, yeah, your own writing, of course.
I think what you're talking about with formatting, like I didn't know about Atticus until honestly this year, but like whenever I published the first time around, like 2016, 2017, 2018, KDP had this thing called Kindle something. It wasn't even Kindle Create. That's like the new one. And it was this like it was horrible. And like I published the first one and it looked great on print, and the ebook was absolutely horribly formatted. And then I'd fix to where the ebook looked good, and the paperback looked absolutely horrible. It's like there was no way to get things to actually look good. And this was the app made by Amazon for the books in their app. And it just like, it was so terrible. Like it didn't look like a professional book, and it wasn't. It was just me. But it's so much easier now, I feel like.
It definitely is.
I didn't do anything for 6 years or 7 years, and then I started again, and I feel like it's so much easier now.
It is, because you can just buy that program, or as Mike does, you could just put it up on Fiverr, have somebody do it for you, and it comes back looking professional. Where like there's seriously, even 5 years ago, indies that were getting into the game, they had to learn how to do this themselves. There was very few options. Like Mike, you've been how long did you publish your first book?
3 years ago.
Oh, just 3 years.
It feels like a decade, but yeah, it's only been 3.
Okay, so about 13 years ago. And but even back then, I'm sure Atticus was very you almost couldn't even trust Atticus 3 years ago. Like there was people that were like still iffy, because if you put your manuscript through there and you just trusted that it would come out good, you'd get the printed book and there would be issues, formatting issues. But it comes down to, I saw somebody say, let's talk about font. And I think font is actually a really, really great thing to talk about when you're, since we're on the topic of formatting, because when I chose font for my book, there's usually between 10 and 11 that people would go for. I guess between 10 and 12 would really be the max there. But it comes down to the same with formatting, the same with your cover, the same with everything. I looked at all of the other books in my genre, the epic fantasy genre. So I went right to the bookshelf, and it seems very obvious, but I just went to a bookstore and I looked at all of the different books. I opened them up and I looked at what their formatting looked like, what kind of font they used, what kind of just how, even down to like the first pages, how it's like books by Scott Palmer, copyright. Like I copied it to the exact page so that when you were flipping through my book, it felt the same as going to a bookstore and pulling it off the shelf. And just that little bit, it still is very easy to do it by loading it into Atticus. But all you need to do is guide Atticus in the right direction, put the pages in the right order, let Atticus do the rest, and you get this book. And you fool everybody into thinking that you're a professional when really all you did was go and steal a book off the shelf and copy it like a monkey and then put it into a program. And then there you go. Voila. Beautiful book, right?
I think I would say, like, I had bought Fogbound, which Nick is a great guy. I bought his book and I really liked the way he did his formatting in there, which I'm pretty sure he probably used Atticus for or paid someone to do. And so I was kind of looking at his book like, okay, I'm going to have a chapter header, a chapter image, kind of like these. I'm going to, so I think, and then obviously looking at other published books that I had and kind of like the things that I liked about them, figuring out how to do a 2-page map spread on Atticus took a while.
Yeah.
But once I got it, I love it. And it makes me so happy to open the book and see that. But like, it took a lot of time that first time around to figure out all of the little things that Atticus does. But once you figure it out, it looks so good. It looks like a book and not something that you threw out, on Word and pressed publish. But like, it looks like something that a professional made. And I mean, I guess we're kind of professionals now, but maybe not professional designers.
Yeah.
And like, it looks so good. I've been so happy with it. And just for guys in the chat, Atticus is only paying me like $1,000 to be here tonight.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just out of curiosity, like I'm at almost a year of not really publicizing like my books and like pushing them out there, but myself as an author, as a community, I run like book talk workshops on TikTok, helping the book talk community, get better at making their content and bridging content gaps and stuff like that. But what does the 7 months look like for you? Like book trailers, social medias that you're using, like what does that look like?
Yeah, well, as Dave said, you can go with no plan, which totally worked for Dave. Dave's doing amazing. So you really don't. I mean, you can just go at it if you want, or you could take a different approach, obviously, and try to map the landscape. You could take that approach, and it's still going to go wrong for you. But either way, my 7 months looked kind of like this. I started off right away. I always call this the big 3. The very first thing I did was I got a website together, very simple website, mailing list, linked to the website, and social media. So these 3 things are your outlets to the world. Your website is a thing that you own, that if Facebook shuts down tomorrow, you still have your website where you can communicate with people. You can put your books, you can sell your books, you could do whatever you want. You can I put my maps up there, my glossaries, all of my stuff, the artwork that I'm getting done. So it's my own space. So like I said, if any social media platform decides to shut down, and as we know, all of the politics going on in the world, social media is not always, I should say it is always usually divisive. in one way or another. So it's good to have that solid base of having your website. The mailing list is your way of communicating with people in the same sense that it's outside of social media. So if people subscribe to your mailing list, you're kind of capturing them in a net. So if you look at it like a funnel, you want to use social media to drive people into your funnel, which is, I guess, your books, your website, all of the stuff, and then get them into that mailing list. When you have somebody on your mailing list, what that allows you to do is when you post on social media, if you ever look at your insights on your social media posts, you'll see that you're reaching less than 20% of your followers usually. Even on a really good post, you might get 35% of your followers. When you send a mailing list email, you're getting whatever your open rate is, but you're sending 100% of those emails. And usually authors that I talk to, we usually have around 60 to 80% open rate. So you're looking at a much higher percentage of direct communication with your readers. And I use the mailing list as well to give exclusive things to make people try to feel like this is our group. This is something special. You're giving me your email. I want to make it worth your while. So here's early reveals on everything. Here's bonus short stories. Here's everything. And then obviously the social media is the thing, like I just mentioned, that drives people towards those other two things. And that's kind of how I've always thought about it. I try to use even writing a reader magnet novella that I give away for free if you sign up for my mailing list. The whole point of that is because I want to build a community that's outside of social media. So this is like a community. It's not the Facebook community. It's not the Twitter community. It's not the Instagram community. It's the Scott Palmer Last Ballad series community. And everyone's got one thing in common, is that we like books. Hopefully they're mine. They don't even have to be mine. That's the best thing about the mailing list. You can get a free book. You don't even have to read my book, but I try to put content in there that's just book related in general. And as I mentioned at the start, always on brand with my personality. I just try to be myself, which makes branding very easy because I never have to worry about putting on an act or doing anything. But my 7 months, to bring it all the way back, Sebastian, was getting those three things that I just explained up and running before I was like, okay, here's my book. I tried to get all of that stuff going. And then I had a website, I had a mailing list, I had my social media stuff that was basically just links to everything. And then you start putting it out there, and whatever you put out there, I did do book trailers personally. I did like little things on Canva where I try to take a couple different songs per book and just make silly little book trailers. I don't even think they do incredibly well, but I do them because I enjoy them. And again, if you're talking about being on brand, it's always about doing things about for the book. As Dave mentioned, my book is music related. My book is epic fantasy. I want to give you music and make it feel epic. You know, Dave might drop some hilarious, which I've seen his marketing is excellent with the way he does memes or just funny stuff to sell his book. It's just the same kind of thing. Use whatever your brand is and post that all over social media. Try to drive people towards your funnels, which is your community, which is the happy place, the safe place for all of your readers. And that's basically rinse and repeat.
I'd say the big thing too is like if you see something working for someone, like take that idea and be like, how can I sort of take this idea and make it work for me? Like Kylie Agard had this really cool special edition with googly eyes on it. And I saw that.
That's where I came
I had
from.
made a little joke mustache cover for like there's a Facebook group that had like the Movember mustache. You put mustaches on your cover. Yeah. And I made that, and someone suggested, well, you could do a special edition with that. And I was like, well, why? It's literally mustaches. But then I had a few people like, we want to buy the mustache cover. So tomorrow I'm getting the first copy of my book with all the characters have mustaches and the sword has a mustache. And
that's amazing.
We'll see if anyone actually purchases it. I mean, if no one does, I'll still have this cool mustache copy of my book. And it's just kind of like, I do things like that just to see like that would be fun.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times people like it just because they think, yeah, that would be fun. And I feel like one of the biggest things, and now Bo is here, so of course I have to talk about Bo.
Oh,
I was going to talk about
Bo.
Bo before this, but basically, like, one of the best ways to market your book is to get involved with the community, and that's not just Twitter, or not just Instagram, or not just TikTok, or just Blue Sky, or Discord as well, but like meeting people in all of these different places. So like I started out in Discord. Well, I had made my accounts on the things, but like I really wasn't getting much traction. This was in like February, and I joined SFFI, where Bo is our emperor, and met a lot of great people like Greg, Nick, a lot of other people in the community. And then from there also got into all of the different other social medias and connected with people in the community. And like without that, I wouldn't have sold a single book to anyone outside of my family because no one knew who I was. But like by making friends in the community and not just being like, hi, we're friends, read my book, but also I'm interested in your books. I'm interested in what are you doing right now? Like I listened to this one audiobook by some guy about like some kid who wants to be a druid, and like it's a really difficult time for him. Like he's trying to become a druid, and it's just
awkward
like
teenagers. Yep. Okay.
But like basically you have to build your community. And I think one thing that I stole this idea from Josh, who was in the chat, and so of course also from you, Scott, as well. You guys had the break-ins, which I got on the scene in February. I didn't know who anyone was, and I was like, I really like how they're doing things. And then I think Josh made a post about like everyone should find their community, and I was like,
Yeah,
that's a great idea. Who wants to do my own little mini community? And that's how the Secret Scribes came about. And then what we have done since then is, the break-ins did that really cool thing that worked really well for them. How can we do something similar because they're doing so well? Like we're doing a giveaway right now that comes out in a few days. And I was like, last year the break-ins did a really cool giveaway. How can I kind of like take that idea and basically just rip off everything? So what I'm telling you, people in the chat, just rip off everything Scott does.
Here's the thing. The secret is I just rip off everything Ryan Cahill does.
We'll just skip that middleman.
That's the way to do it. You just I did make Greg sign a contract mostly because we didn't really want Greg in the group, but he like had some pictures of Bill Adams that like we had to do something or that he was going to release those.
It was a P. Diddy kind of situation.
So, Dave, follow-up question. Who is this Bo you speak of? Never heard of him.
Well, his actual legal name is Bobert Kelly.
Okay.
But he is like basically, like Nero, the Emperor of Rome.
Yep.
Bo is basically Nero, but crazier. So like you gotta watch your back around him because you never know whenever he's gonna like just try to kick you out of his Discord or something like that. But yeah, seriously, like listen to this BOE Kelly person in the chat.
Bowie?
Bowie, yeah.
Bowie, okay.
Bowie. In all seriousness, Dave, you said that very well, and I couldn't agree more, man. That was the whole idea when Josh and I were like, how can we get more into this community? Well, let's start another community. Let's try to put communities and stack them on top of each other. And that's how life works. I mean, you've got your close family, and then you've got your work life, and it spreads out from there. And I figure, why can't, if this author thing, we want to treat it as a job, why can't it be similar? Why can't we be friends with everybody? And it's funny because it comes from a place like I used to play music, and most, like, especially the music scene, all bands are friends. Like they're just like complete friends. They're all doing collaborations and writing songs together. And just like, I didn't see that a lot in especially traditional publishing. I was just like, why? Like, why can't authors be cool and fun too, you know.
I can
And, like,
answer.
there's always going to be an author that you're like, oh my god, this guy again. He's doing another tweet asking you if
Another
you're
one.
interested in buying his book, and
Yeah.
he just did one 20 minutes ago. But like the whole idea is that there's no reason to be jealous of the other authors that are doing the same thing as you and be like, well, they sold more books than me. Oh my god, they got to 60 ratings and I'm still at 52.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important because it the whole thing with that too, it's so out of your control. Like you don't know what is going to sell and what's not. And it's not a testament to how good your product is. It's not a testament to how good it looks. It could just literally be people's tastes at that time, that year. Like Dragon Rider Fantasy has just been massive. If Fourth Wing came out 10 years ago, it wouldn't have done as well, you know? So it's just one of those things. Sometimes you can't compare yourself because writing is a long game too. And it's really easy to forget that you put your book out and it's out now. And like, it's not going away. And like, you might have weeks without sales, but like, then you get sales again. And it's like, oh, okay. Like it just keeps going. Like it's one of those, there's no expiry date on it. I mean, well, I don't know, maybe Fogbound has an expiry.
Fogbound expired a long time ago, but you know, that's just the way things go with that. One thing I do want to make clear to everyone out there in the chat, you heard it here. Scott Palmer just announced that book 2 of his series has dragon riders. I don't have dragons in my books, but my wife has been very clear that I need to have flying lizards that are basically dragons. So maybe that's like, basically we're just all doing dragons, dragon riders, every book. Yeah.
I feel like that's why this did as well as it did, the Murtaugh book.
Yes, 100%.
Because, you know, he bid his time freaking 15 years later.
He was like, strike while the iron's hot, baby. Dragons are back. I've waited 15 years for this. Christopher Paolini. He was like, literally in high school, guys, I was telling you dragons were cool. And now you're catching up to me? Like, come on. You know? Oh, okay. One of the other things about publicizing your book. Always have your book within reach.
Mike's is behind him.
Yeah, there it is.
If you have multiple copies of it, that's great too. I've sold out of all of my hardcovers, so I normally have a hardcover and a paperback, and it's that day.
Oh shit. So Dave, you said that like you just jumped on the scene and just published. You didn't do any like marketing beforehand?
I mean, basically, I started marketing in maybe March for my June release. That became my September release. That became my October release. And I just kind of went off of vibes and fun and me being me. And then it was like May, and I thought, you know, I should do ARC signups because I'm impatient. So I set up ARC signups like maybe at the beginning of June, and I got 104 people to sign up for ARCs. Wow. But I also had ARC signups open for like 2.5 months. And there were probably a few people by the time they actually got the ARC that were like, "What the hell is this book? I don't even remember signing up for this." But like it was one of those things where like I felt like ARC signups went on for so long, and I was always like, ARCs are happening soon, guys. And when they finally came out, like in August, because I'd read all this stuff about you want to give 2 months for people to actually read it and maybe get some reviews in before launch. And so I put in basically 2 months beforehand, and I had a great turnout on ARCs and ARC reviewers to where like when the book came out, I think I had like 32 ratings and like 29 reviews. And like now I'm at just like it'll have been out for 2 months in 2 days, and I've got 52 ratings and like 40 something reviews, where like I have done really well at getting my book into people's hands. I think I might be starting to reach that point where the people in our small little indie community have already heard of the book, and a lot of them already have the book somewhere, to where I don't know if I'm just like suddenly like meeting 1,000 more people who want to pay for my book right now, to where now I've got to get in the point where I write the next one so that I have 2 of them, like, just because I feel like there's a little bit of a limit as to how many people you can reach without expanding. And like Scott's talking about his newsletters. I hadn't sent one out until like right before ARCs, and I kind of used ARC signups as a way to get some people signed up. But I still I just feel weird doing it, because I'm in my personality in general is that I don't like to bother people, which Greg will be like, you bother me all the time. What are you talking about? But I'm always kind of like, if I send another newsletter email, is everyone going to be mad at me and unsubscribe? So I've been trying to just do like one a month or something, but then I see like really some pretty successful, like Andy Peliquin, I'm in his newsletter thing, and I feel like I get one at least every other week, maybe sometimes more than that. And it's like, it's working for people that are doing a lot better than me. So maybe that is the way to go.
Over time is you'll get people that when you first, especially if you're using a reader magnet, you'll get a ton of people sign up, and you will just get mass chunks of unsubscribes. Like, it's just the nature of it. But what you're doing is the people that you're retaining, they're actually opening, and you can look at some of the stats on your mailing list, and you'll see, like, I started sending mine, I think in about a year ago, actually. I think it's in January I started. And you can look back, and some people have opened like all 20. Every newsletter I've sent, people have opened. And I know what you mean, Dave, and that's why I do only send once a month, just to, I don't want to be hammering you all the time, bothering you. But the weird thing is, Dave, that it took me a long time to kind of realize is now you're an author, you wrote this story that people actually like, and they want to hear from you. Dude, and it's weird and it's crazy, but it's like, if they don't hear from you, they're like, hey, your newsletter's a day late. I was like, oh, I had no idea you were even expecting that, but that's really cool. I'll write it right now. Just the fact, like, even one person might just be waiting. And when you were talking about, I think you made a very valid point with, you reach a point where you've kind of hit the whole, you've put yourself out there, and you've made a bunch of friends in the community. You've become a part of the community. And now you've kind of reached the point, like you said, where maybe everyone who's going to buy it's going to buy it. And I do think the best thing to do is put the next one out there. In my experience, since just doing the cover reveal for book 2, it was enough weight to push book 1 into new realms. So it was this weird effect that happened where it's almost like if you just keep going and you keep pushing, the more you pile on there, the farther it will spread out of your screen. And it did feel the same way for me, Dave. I was getting pretty regular sales, and it just completely hit a wall, completely dropped off. And I was like, well, I've definitely hit my limit. and then just, I had book 2 ready to go, and I started putting everything out. And then all of a sudden it starts reaching all of these new people again. And I just think it's the nature of epic fantasy in general, is people kind of expect series, and they'll start to get more and more attention to the more you add to your series, and the bigger it gets, the more people that read it. You mentioned ratings. They're so important. And stacking up those early ratings, especially because it just, you never know when somebody's looking at your book, they're like, oh, there's 3 ratings. I don't want to be the 4th person to read this book. Right.
Right. Like with the Sphinx judging, like I've been judging Sphinx, and I read some awesome books for that, by the way. But like looking at some of the ones that made it into the semis, and like I was going on Goodreads and adding them because I'm going to be reading some of them. And the few of the ones that made it have like 1 rating and no reviews. And then like I had to kind of fight this, like, with like, okay, it can't be that bad because it like has made it into the semis, but like 1 rating, no reviews, and the review, and it was just like, what is, like, I'm so used to thinking like, well, you get it out there and people read it, but then I think about my early books that have like 4 ratings and no reviews, and like mostly the people who read it were my friends and family, and they are not all on Goodreads and on
of course,
Twitter leaving reviews.
So I know that when I wanted to create my community, I got on TikTok. I spent the entire year doing TikTok alone. And I've amassed almost over 9,500 followers. I'll be at 10K before the end of the year. But, even though TikTok's getting banned, I don't have to use a VPN to update it and everything else. But, with that, I already made my audience to push out to once I have that created. So what social media platforms did y'all push out to? How did you get in front of the people that was already expecting it? How did y'all actually push it out there to the fans that you've already amassed before you even put anything out?
Yeah, that's
it's kind
not
of
easy.
An interesting thing because I feel like it's very much like you find different readers in different places. So like the people you find on Instagram are not the people you find on Twitter, are not the people you find on like Blue Sky or something like that, to where in general, you kind of have to be hitting all of the different places in order to find all of those readers. And it can be kind of exhausting because
they all have different vibes.
Yeah.
You have to go to 5 different parties and change your outfit before you go to each one and be like, okay. Like same with TikTok. They're all very different. I think I met Dave through Twitter X. So I'm sure that's where I've met most of the break-ins. That's where I've met most of my author family was X, Twitter. But as far as like readers, there's just a massive avid reader community on both Instagram and TikTok. But like I said, completely different vibes, and you've got to know how to reach them. If I put like a crappy Canva book trailer on TikTok, I'm sure Sebastian, that just goes straight to the basement. Nobody wants to see that. My view time is like less than a second, and it's like,
I make so much stuff on Canva, and I make it look professional, and I make it look amazing, and there's all these moving parts, how they say that they want it, and then when I push it over onto TikTok, I do all the captions, and I do the entire check for list for that. And it doesn't matter what it is. If you don't make it in TikTok, it just
goes down. Where the same thing on Reels, Instagram Reels, will do very well. It'll get a very wide reach, and it'll reach a lot of new people, especially. And then there's long watch time. Where on Twitter X, same thing. No engagement with a Canva video, and like I learned all this pretty quick. And then you just, but I guess there is something to say, Sebastian, about just paying attention to what you're doing. I'm sure you don't get 9.5 thousand followers without paying attention to your posts. So I'm sure that you're well aware at looking at insights and analytics, and it's just a weird thing in the author game. In any business, you've just got to make small adjustments, small tweaks, and always be changing.
Well, I use my account to kind of help out all the smaller creators get to the 500,000, 1K, 3K, 5K marks. Just help the people in the community, and I run workshops for all that. But switching gears, Mike, you do a lot of shows. So like, how is actually being in front of people versus doing the social media thing? Like, how do y'all advocate that?
It is very different. Just a quick question for y'all. Show of hands. Who here is an extrovert? Really? Oh, yeah. Okay, there's Dave. I was like, I knew Dave had to raise his hand. Oh, I hate you people. Anyway, Comic-Cons, it's a long slog. I just did one 2 weekends ago, and it was 28 hours of selling over 3 days. And if you're sitting down looking at your phone, I mean, you're like, now people have to come bother you to talk about you're going to get zero engagement. So I stood for probably 27 of those 28 hours, and I am a hefty man. So my feet were screaming by the end, but you got to do it. I don't want to talk to people, ever. I mean, I've talked very little on this show. I've let y'all do it all, but you got to just like, fine, I'm going to extrovert today. Once the show's over, I'm turning off all the lights and acting like I'm in a cave-in. But but you got to do it, and you got to talk to them. You got to be real. I make some really bad jokes, but yeah, and you kind of at first. When you start, it's like, well, let me tell you about my book. It's a druid. He's starting out, and he's 19, and you have this like 20-minute spiel that no one is going to sit through.
Yeah,
you're like, well, that 5-minute spiel didn't work. Maybe I should cut it down to 4.5. And and sooner or later you get it down to. Now I tell people, I'm like, 30 seconds. Time me if you want to. I will tell you about my book. All you need to know. I'm like, get your phone out. Let's go. I can do it. 30 seconds.
Mike, I can do your book in 10 seconds. Grommy gets girl. Grommy loses girl. Grommy becomes druid. Grommy stops being a druid. Grommy is sad.
So, the very best review of Haley Traveler as a friend at work. He's like, Chris shoots a bunch of people, but he makes friends, so it's okay. Honestly, the most accurate review of my book that I have heard. Anyone tell me? So, but yeah, you got to get your pitch. You got to get it down. I will tell you one thing that draws people in. I'm a terrible salesman, but all of my hardbacks, I wrap in the map where the book it takes place with a wax seal. This is gold. I get more people come and just tell me about what's this? Is this a surprise? Like, yes, it is. It's not Becoming a Druid, the book, or unless you want to know it is, and then it is. And then for Haley Traveler, I got the map of Mars with all the cities from my book. Wax seal of the spaceship. There you go. See,
Nice.
When you're next level, you don't have to have a copy of your book. You have other people show the book for you.
I sprayed his edges.
And then just as you go on and slowly add over time. I have a retractable banner. Actually, I have 3. I think they cost like $130. I started with 1, and then I was like, well, let me get 2, and I got one that has the map of where it takes place, and that gets people come over because they just like maps. They're like, tell me about this map, and I'm like, I'll be glad to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you don't have to have everything all at once. You just add slowly over time what works, and then you like, hey, nice, beautiful. Actually, I went to Comic-Con with James Maxey, who's on Friday for selling your book. And the one thing he told me that I had not paid attention to, he's like, your retractable banner, you have all these containers you bring your books in. Once they're empty, set them on their side, put your banner on top of that. Now you've just made your banner 2 feet taller and it's easier to see and you're not blocking as much of it. And I'm like, wow, I could have been doing that, for years now and never thought, so you always learn, I always talk to other authors and, what's working for you and you steal the best ideas that will work for you. And
common theme. There's a common theme of this show. We've just struck it. Steal from other authors, other artists in general.
So Scott, like, what has been the best that works for you? Like social media, in person, word of mouth. Like, what has been the best?
Like all I've had is social media. To be honest, like I've done like stuff in person. I've actually done fairly well selling physical books in person in my hometown, but I haven't done any events yet. So it's really, for me, it's been social media, word of mouth. I really worked hard on the marketing, which was just getting my book out. So I did some free promos early on for ebooks, just giving free ebooks away. I did a few giveaways to just try to get my book in people's hands, get people reading it. And as Mike just said, if you can get other people to show your book for you, you're way ahead. So that's really what it is. If, like, as we've talked about, people are going to get sick of you posting, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. But if you repost somebody else saying, buy Scott's book, all of a sudden your Instagram stories light up and you're like, okay, they just want to see other people talking about my book, not me. But they also want me to post about people talking about my book, but not me talking about it. So essentially it's just trying to build that audience on however you can, in person, social media, and then combine them.
So I did not say this, I probably should have, but Tim's a Canadian. I don't like being nice to Canadians because then they're just always nice to me and ugh. But he did post once that he liked my book on Twitter, and I got 8 people bought my book within the next 24 hours.
Wow.
So,
Timmy, Timmy, have you seen,
Tim, how much? What do you charge for this service?
See, I always try to insult him, and he does this anyway. So maybe
Tim, your beard is wonderful. Your hat is much cooler than my hat, Tim.
But yeah, I found, because I'm terrible about posting about my own. I don't want to because I don't want to bother people. But when other people post, I mean, one, I light up. I had to review Kay. Kay's Hidden Shelf. She did a video review. I had to stop it and like walk around my house like, oh my God, this is too good. This can't be real. I'm recovering from 12 years of Catholic school. You don't compliment me. I can't take that. I don't know how. So I literally stop her video and like walk around my house, do a couple laps, and like, okay, I can sit and watch the rest of this. And then when I was done, I was like, I should share this on social. Yes, I should definitely share this on social. And then I was like, got to run away though because people are going to say nice things, and I can't have that. So,
yeah.
Mike, I'd just like you to know, you was smart, you was kind, you was important. Just remember that.
Stop that. Ugh.
You'll make him blush.
If you tell me I'm a jerk, I'll be like, okay, sure, fine, true.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, that's great when it's honestly, Mike, what you just said too, that's really what being an author is all about. You've got to try to find those things. And if you're just, publicizing is one part of it, but it really does come down to just, if someone's read your book and they're making a video review on it, that's pretty special, regardless of, how many books you've sold, how many, that's the cool part of it, is that it doesn't really matter, because even one person who is, like I said earlier, one person waiting for your mailing list, one person waiting for that next book, it's just, you can't even put a value on that in any way. So, I mean,
yeah.
I had a win recently that was, might not be something that you would consider like, oh my God, this is amazing. But like, I had someone who rated my book 3 stars on Amazon, 3 stars in Goodreads. And like, I looked and was like, I don't know who this person is. I'm not connected to this person on any of the socials. This is a random person who found my book. Like, that's awesome. Like, they could have given me 1 star and I'd be like, somebody that I have no connection to found this book somehow.
That is what's interesting. And that's what, as time goes on, that's going to start happening more and more. It's just going to keep spreading. And that's the interesting part about, especially just literature in general. Like, we're still reading books from 4,000 years ago, and they're just translated into different languages now. So it's just, you never know. It's like, if nobody reads your book today, they might read it in 100 years. And that's happened so many times. I mean, with fantasy, there's a weird thing where we're in a kind of moment where it's a little bit saturated. There's a lot of it coming out because it's new. It's a fresh kind of, there hasn't been, I mean, since the 70s, 60s, it's really been, so you're in this stage where you've got all this influx of stuff. And how many good fantasy series are you trying to read right now? Yeah. There's so many, and more coming out. And as the years go on, more people will get to your book if it just stays in their TBR. And hopefully good. I mean, I shouldn't say that. That's not something I want to wish for. But good series are going to keep coming out. But just hopefully your book can maintain a place in people's TBR ahead of all the mountain of new ones coming out. But it all comes back to our earlier discussions about being consistent, trying to keep pushing forward, keep releasing new books, especially if you're a fantasy author. Just if you're trying to really publicize and get out there, the best way to do it is to have more things to put out there, right? Mm-hmm.
So, Scott, I have a question for you as one of the break-ins, because I told Sebastian before you got here that all the break-ins, they publish a book, and then like 3 months later, they're publishing a novella because they're just going to keep the conversation going. Is this a thing? Am I decoding secrets of the break-in?
Well, the whole thing with this whole thing with planning series with novellas, this is a new phenomena that, again, it contributes. Actually, you can trace it back to Romantasy, where everything's traced back to Romantasy. But this whole thing, Ryan Cahill really took it and ran with it, putting your novellas in between. And there is something to say to keep the conversation going, of course, because it's coming out. It's a smaller book. You're getting it out. But the novellas, they simply don't do as well. So I think they do bridge a gap, but you have to be careful that you're not taking too much away because in my experience, what I've seen is that a novella, just like I said, simply maybe will perform about a quarter as well as a full-length book. And I've taken the strategy to try to get a big chunk of the series and just give a lot of people to sink their teeth into, and put the novellas between. But the novellas are used not, like I said, as a thing for publicizing, but they're for the story. It's a story device, essentially, that I tried to use in a way that I could do your classic Star Wars episode 1, 2, 3, the prequel that comes before the whole thing. But I wanted to do that at the same time. I thought it would be interesting to have, I have book 1, I have a novella, and book 2. And then the second novella is going to feed into a lot of that lore that you got in book 2 and expand on it. Where book 2, I want it to be fast. I want it to be the plot moving along. And I don't necessarily want to linger on, 200 pages of lore in a side thing that is overarching. It's for the whole plot of the entire trilogy, entire series. But you try to put it and spread it out into novellas rather than having it as part of the whole series, rather than dragging these books and making them longer. So, I mean, it's a weird thing. It's all to help people's read through go faster. And of course, I mean, you have more books, you're going to sell more books. But I just think there is a nuance to that. It doesn't just mean put novellas out and you'll sell more. There has to be a reason for those novellas. They have to really fit, and you want to have to make people want them in some way, because generally they don't want them as much.
Right. But I mean,
I'm working on a novella right now that's sort of a prequel for one of the side characters from my novels,
100%.
where he's kind of a fan favorite. So I'm writing like 12 years earlier, no connection beyond that one character. So a little bit of his origin, but just like I also needed a break from the main series because I'd finished this book. I got it out. And like the last thing I wanted to do immediately was just start writing the second book. I was like, I need to do something different. And so writing this novella that I plan to use as a reader magnet, because once again, what have I been doing? Copying everything that the break-ins were doing, copying everything that Ryan Cahill did that they copied, all about the copying.
Yeah.
And so I took a character named Cork that my friend and beta reader, see, people like the dude. He's like 6'11", apparently hot. So like, there might be some good artwork coming out of this.
Apparently, you knew what you were doing, Dave.
Well, he actually has a little bit of hair in this one, whereas he has a shaved head in the series. And so Audrey is all about, he's a hot Cork now because he's got hair. So apparently, I don't know. I feel like this is like the amazing, like this is the best you can do right here, people. But you know what, Bo? You can't beat them, steal from them.
Hey, Bo, where did you get the idea to start a reviewers collective? Just wondering.
I have a question. For the publicizing side of things, I haven't really heard y'all talk much about it, but one of my ideas is I met a buddy of mine. We had similarities. We're both 19 Deltas for the Army.
Nice.
He's actually active right now, and he has like almost 3 million followers across all platforms, 2 million of which are on TikTok. And he wants to get into, he's already a narrator. He wants to get into book modeling. So I, reached out to him and said, hey, I'll let you be on one of my books. We'll share some royalties. You go to a lot of different events. I haven't really done any of that. So as far as putting it in front of as many eyes as possible, especially with his community and all those thirst traps and stuff, do you think that's like a relatively good idea?
So like when you say that, like you're gonna put like his picture on there? I'm sorry,
So he's gonna be the cover model for the book.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know. I've never even heard of that. But I mean, it sounds like it could be, if the cover's on brand. I mean, when you say cover model, I immediately think of romantasy. I don't know why I'm going there. Military guy, cover model. I'm like, what kind of, is it one of those?
Right. No, now you're gonna get those TikTok readers. They're gonna be all.
Not mean to be disrespectful at all, but what I do say is I've never heard of that being done, Sebastian. That does not mean that it's not a good idea. Like we've been talking about this whole time, you've got to take chances sometimes. And if that guy's got a following, if the cover's good and it looks good, I cannot see that not working. 2 million TikTok followers. I mean, if it's on brand, you know who you're marketing to. I mean, if you're marketing to a massive military audience and they see that guy on the cover and they're going to buy it because he's on the cover, then yeah, that seems like an incredibly good idea, you know. But
he's agreed to 2 covers. One will be a romance type thing, but it's more Western, which a lot of his audience likes him because he's more of cowboyish. And the other one is going to be it's a modern retelling of the Picture of Dorian Gray, the more digital age.
Wow.
So it'll show a side profile, and then like in the camera lenses on the red carpet, it'll actually show that distorted figure that you get from that book. But yeah, so
really when it comes
to ideas.
Any cover, it comes down to you've got to shrink it down to a small size that you're going to see on Amazon, and it's got to look good. It's like it doesn't matter who's on it, who did it. It's if you see it on Amazon, is somebody going to want to click on it and buy it? And that all comes down to knowing your genre. So if it's a romantasy book and it's people are expecting that kind of thing on the cover, that's a great idea. If it's a military, like Jack Carr kind of like Jack Reacher kind of book, probably not going to be as effective, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like the genre is everything. I was just very simple. I put a sword. I have an epic fantasy book and I made a sword. I put a sword on there. Real original, right? But the whole point is that they're both saying right there, it's the scroll test, and it's genre. It all comes down to genre. If you're looking for an epic fantasy book and you're scrolling, most people, they see a cool sword, they're gonna at least kind of glance at it for a second. Same thing with romantasy. Is I came up in I used a writing coach when I was first learning how to write, and I met a lot of people in that group, and most of them were lovely females who were writing romantasy books, and I just got really a part of these women's journey, and it was just amazing because I was like, me writing epic fantasy, and we're all in these group chats talking about writing discussions, and they're talking about writing spice and stuff. Anyways, when it came to covers, we were all in very different areas looking for covers. Like you said, they were looking for a romantasy book. Not just romantasy. I mean, like there's different types. There's ACOTAR romantasy, you know, there's your you know, and then there's like real spicy stuff that's, you know, like even beyond Fourth Wing. Like there's Fourth Wing, and then there's other levels.
Dark romance.
Fourth Wing only has like 2 spicy scenes in it.
Exactly.
So it's, people talk about the spice, but really it's not super spicy. I think one thing, like, I think what Scott's talking about, like, you know, making your cover fit your genre, like there are so many books with swords or daggers on them, but like if you look at what Scott did, if Scott, will you hold your book up again? Like the way that you have all of the, like basically the tree, I think it's a tree. Like I always thought of it as a tree, like a tree coming out of the sword. And like, it took this thing that's like, oh yeah, another sword book. And it's like, oh my God, look at that sword. That is an awesome sword with this whole, like, it's more than just a basic sword. It's got like the thing that brings you in, but then it's got so much more to it. And I think that's why your cover is amazing. And it's one of the things that I saw from the beginning. I also just like the title of your book. The whole thing of like A Memory of Song, the first something and the last ballad. I like it's just like,
thank you so much.
The musicalness of it all was just like, this is, I just loved the whole vibe of it and thought, okay, I need to read these books.
I think, Dave, I first of all, I very much appreciate that, but that comes down to something that I learned, and again, I stole from other authors, is the package. There's a whole package, especially if you're trying to write a series, an epic fantasy series. There's this feeling of a package. Everything's feels right together. The name feels right with the cover, with the everything. And now when it comes to the cover, I knew like just talking about this from our earlier conversations, I thought it was very important for me to get like a professional, like somebody who was top of the game, who knew what they were doing with covers, because like you said, Dave, I was just going to have a sword, and to have another artist to collaborate with somebody else who can take it to the next level, really kind of see your package and run with it, and understand. And that's, I guess, really what it comes down to is knowing how to fit in, but then trying to stand out. And this is what we were kind of talking about before with Dave, just putting yourself out there. Like,
yep.
I went to the cover artist that did my cover, Stuart Bache. I didn't really expect him to I didn't know if I would get an answer back. Like, he's a pretty big name, but I just messaged him and he was like, yeah, of course. Like, he just takes clients. Like, it doesn't matter that you're a nobody, but if you don't take these chances, you don't dream big, you don't try to imagine, something bigger. How are you going to sell it? Like, how can you sell an idea to somebody if you don't really even grasp onto it yourself? So, Dave, I appreciate so much that you like the name, because I put a lot of thought into how to present the series. And funny enough, my wife and I went back and forth before it came out. Like, I wasn't going to call it First Verse of the Last Ballad.
Right, First Verse. Okay, that's what it is.
I thought it was going to be confusing. So I was just like, book one of the left. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it different. And funny enough, that little change has been the thing that has, for instance, that's what made Patrick Leo interested in it. Like, oh, I like the way this name is. And then it seems to have stuck in his head, because he talked about, he put my cover on his video the other day for book 2. And that's all he remembered was the second verse of the last ballad. I don't even think he remembered my name, but he remembered the name of the series, which that's the important thing. And when it's just coming up with these little things. Like, we started this conversation off of taking any little thing that you can take, like, even if it's a loss, if it's stealing one thing and making it your own, however you can take all of these little things, put them all together, package them, and try to present it as your own thing, and just keep doing that.
Yeah, and if it's things that you like, then you're being authentic, because you're putting out, these are the things I like. Scott, if you would just put a mustache on your sword, I bet you would have blown up as big as Ryan Cahill.
I know. That's the one thing I was missing.
Mustaches on swords, they are going to be the next big thing in fantasy. So just wait. Whenever my special edition comes out with the mustache on the sword, next year, Ryan Cahill is going to have mustaches on swords on his next one. I'm calling it.
Should that just be the hilt? It should just be a handlebar mustache for the bottom of the hilt.
That's a great sword. I like that sword.
I actually did the sword like up on the blade just because I wanted it to be like the face of the sword. And someone said it should be on the hilt. It was like, no. This is sillier. This is better because it's sillier.
Dave, I just noticed your name was Bald, author of the Unvoice of.
I think that's been my name in almost every single stream I have done. Something like Bald author. It's part of the brand. I don't have hair.
Brand. See, there you go, man. You've got it.
It's like all male authors are either bald or balding.
Yeah, well,
you're too young. You don't have.
I got a little bit of hair, but I'll tell you, it's turning gray. It's starting to go a little gray, and that's just what happens when you have a 3-year-old, 2.5-year-old.
Yeah, I got 5 of them.
Oh, geez. Well,
I had hair until I started teaching middle school. When I stopped having hair.
Yeah. So
now I teach high school and I still don't have hair.
Well, gentlemen, we've gone 73 minutes, almost 74. And I wanted you all on because I wanted to learn about how to publicize, because I'm terrible at it. So thank you very much. If you have your books to hold up one more time, except for Sebastian, you can hold up mine because, I'm shameless. There we go. These are all great books. You need to buy them. I won't tell you in which order because, I'm biased. If you see one with a mustache, though, that would be the one I'd go to first.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, thank you. It's time to wave awkwardly, and I appreciate y'all coming on.
Hope you learned something.
Having us.